Okay, I'm going to keep this one I'll try to be somewhat brief with this. I mainly wanted to do a review about this because of the way I got this book. I think is probably a more interesting story than some of the information relayed in the book. So anyway, without further ado, this is En route to global occupation. A high-ranking government liaison exposes the secret agenda for world unification by Gary H. Kaw. I think I'm saying his name right. This was published in the early 90s, I think like 91, 92, 92. As far as I know, this is the first printing. This is the first book that I ever got from on the New World Order kind of stuff, and really breaks down a lot of the UN, in the New Age movement, Freemasonry, the hidden catalyst, the secret teachings of the New World Order. Lots of good stuff. But a lot of this is going to be old hat to those of you who've studied this stuff. This was one of the earlier books in that genre. I haven't looked it up to see how hard this is to get. I don't think this is one of the harder ones to get, but just a quick word though, because every now and then about the whole idea of a one world government. Let me just get this out of the way before I forget. A lot of times I'll run into people, usually people that are more left leaning in their politics, and when you start explaining the whole idea of a one world government or whatever, and usually when you start making a case and you start actually showing evidence that, hey, here's what's happening, and I can show you there's this agenda, and it's leading towards this one world government. A reaction that I've gotten on a pretty regular basis is, well, what's wrong with a one world government? What's wrong with that? And this is one thing I have to thank Donald Trump for, because I think a great response to that, and again, this works whether or not you like Donald Trump, is to say, okay, if you didn't like Donald Trump, then if you have a one world government, would you want that one world government to be under Donald Trump? So chew on that one, because again, that's the problem. Therein lies the trouble with a one world government, is a total authoritarian control of the entire planet. There's no, I'm going to move to Canada if that guy gets in office, because there is no other nation that you could move to that's under other leadership. So that's when it really starts to kick in just what that means to have authoritarian control of the entire planet. So again, if you like the idea of a one world government, take the worst world leader, take the worst personality or the worst worst politician you can think of in your lifetime, and insert them into that leadership role and think, would I be okay with that? And if that answer is no, then you probably would not like a one world government. So anyway, without further ado, good primer on this. This is overall, again, a lot of this is ground that a lot of you are probably familiar with, but let me explain how I got this, because that's the fun part of the story. In 1994, I was living in Lubbock, Texas, and I was one of the few people in that area that had the ability to make a mold of someone's head while they're alive. So, and that's a whole other story in and of itself. And as a result, I had a pretty good relationship with the local costume shop out there. And so they would refer things to me that seemed like they were good, clients for prosthetics and things like that. So I got a call from the costume shop that they said, hey, this guy came through. He seems legit. He's got money. He needs a mold of his head so that he can make a custom mask. So I'm thinking, well, I can help with that. So I meet up with the guy, super nice guy. He had a little office space that he was working out of, where he allowed me to order the materials to his office, had them all shipped there. We wound up making a mold of his head, and he actually, had this nice when we were done, and it was one of the first ones I'd ever done on somebody that was just about as flawless of a cast of their head as I had ever done. So I really wanted to get a picture of it. So as soon as I said, "Hey, can I take some pictures of this?" He's like, "I can't let you do that." And we wound up hanging out a little bit more as I helped him clean up this cast and get it all perfect. And the more he started talking to me, the more I started realizing there was some kind of militia angle to this cast of his head, and that he was potentially wanting to make disguises for what purpose, I don't know. We never got that far into it. But in the course of that, he gave me this book and started warning me about this impending crisis of world government and all that. And actually a really nice guy, but it was really bizarre. I don't know if he's out there watching this. It could be watching this right now for all I know. But he, paid me and everything, got everything taken care of, but totally disappeared from his storefront that he had within a few weeks of that. And it was really bizarre. He tried to contact me one last time, and unfortunately I never returned his call. And then I went by to see, and he was totally gone. Never heard of him again. But it was really strange. And some of the stuff he dropped in my lap about a lot of strange things happening in government. Again, this was 1994. A lot of it at the time sounded so far out. I was like, dude, this is crazy talk. I'm going to humor you because I'm doing a job for you and you're paying me money that spends, but I'm not going to take this too seriously. But he gave me this book, and I read this after he disappeared. I became really intrigued, and then I dug out the book and read it. So fascinating book, but like I said, I've always wondered whatever happened to that guy, and I've always wondered, I had a friend of mine that helped me with that undertaking. He was convinced at one point, until the Unabomber was arrested, at one point he was freaking out thinking maybe this guy had been the Unabomber, but he was definitely not the Unabomber. But anyway, so that's how I got En Route to Global Occupation by Gary H. Kaw. But good book. Again, there's probably some, since this came out in 92, there's probably some that are a lot more broad or a lot more detailed on the subject. And again, I think especially there's a lot of the stuff these guys were kind of vague about. They didn't know exactly where this is going. And now with stuff like the Great Reset and things like that happening very openly, stuff like this resonates a lot more than it did in 1992. So might be worth doing another dive into this again. Not a bad book at all. It's got a lot of good information in it. Again, just some of it is a little on the dated side. Not that it's untrue. It's just a lot of it's, for many of you watching this, may think some of this is old hat. But anyway, that's how I got this book.